All right, I'm really excited to be here with Christian Sundberg. Uh, it's funny. I'm a little starstruck, to be honest, Christian, because I met you through watching a compilation video of stories about near-death experiences, and then I think I watched another one of your interviews or something, and then I saw that you've been interviewed a bunch in different spiritual channels. And this channel, my channel, isn't mainly spiritual. I mean, that's not mainly what I talk about, but there are a lot of spiritual people. That tends to be the people that I draw. So I think a lot of folks will be glad to find you. And I think they'll find this conversation quite interesting because it's going to be different than most of the interviews you've done. And I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and any part of it that you want to. I will, of course, link below this video to your other interviews so that people can hear your story in full. I think it's really interesting, and sort of the spiritual insights that came from that. Now, just to be clear, you didn't have a near-death experience per se, right?
Not to my knowledge, right?
Right. You had spiritual experiences as a kid that obviously create a lot of opening of your heart and soul and insights. And you briefly kind of forgot about it for a couple years, and you kind of had this awakening in, later in your adulthood where you remembered those early experiences. And am I right to say that you then explored like out of body experiences? Is that right?
Yes, not intentionally. So your comment about my experiences as a young child. So it wasn't so much that I had spiritual experiences as a child per se. It's that as a very young child, I still had recollection of the pre-incarnation state. So for
Got
me,
it.
it was
Yes.
normal. It was the normal thing.
Mm,
Like this was the strange thing.
yes. Right.
Now that no, but
Being
that
here.
left me though. Yeah, being here, but that left me. The veil works. It does its
Mm,
job.
right.
So the more I became form focused, focused into the identity, eventually by the age of 5 or 6, that memory left me completely. But then at the age of 30, after taking up a long-term meditation practice, I began to have out-of-body experiences and the pre-birth memory. That's kind of
Wow.
I'm known for sharing, although I don't think it's the most important thing to talk about, but
Yeah.
that awareness of what I am and what we are before,
Yes.
preceding the human experience,
Yes.
that was just there.
Yes.
It was seen, it was known.
Yes.
And so now my body is 44 years old and now it's just kind of normal. I can feel the veil
Yes.
resting on and within my consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm passionate about sharing about that.
Yes.
Basically, like I'm passionate about reminding everybody else that is interested that we really are multidimensional beings of
Yeah.
love. Love and joy is
Yes.
our true nature.
Yes. Yes.
And this human experience is just like a big play or video game simulation, you could say, that we're
Yes.
here experiencing. And it
Yeah.
really is like that. I mean, it's not just like a woo-woo thing or a
Yes.
religious thing. It's like,
Yes.
no, we really do transcend the physical, but we take this very deep dive into this experience
Yes. Yes.
for specific purposes. Yeah.
It's interesting that you had these out of body experiences because I I have had been fascinated by that for a couple for throughout my life. I had been like touching into that every now
Yeah.
and then, and the Monroe Institute is a well-known. For those of you who haven't heard about it, you can Google it and find out more info. I tried doing some intentional out of body experiences,
Mhm.
just like before falling asleep, try to, all that stuff and
Yeah.
try to, and I
Body
feel like,
asleep, mind awake. Yeah.
yes, I feel like a couple of times I had like this vibrational buzz or whatever, like, people I've heard about, that's the on the edge of, getting out of your body or whatever. But the experience has never panned out because it always was really dark, not not like dark in terms of the theme, but dark in terms of visually. Like I couldn't see
Yes.
anything.
Hmm.
And it's also the same thing with, yeah, I feel like I've probably a lot of us have out of body experiences
Yes.
at
Yes.
night, like just, not realizing we're having them. And I feel like I have two types of dreams. One is, so, a lot of us have such vivid dreams that we're like, wait, that wasn't real. And they're often like, um, you know, experiences that are, it's not like literally like, oh, I was in my neighborhood and I saw it. It wasn't, it was like, it's like really
Right.
bizarre stuff. Right. So I'm like, okay, maybe just my mind making stuff up. And then if I had some dreams where I feel like I'm walking in my house, but everything's really dark. Like, well, the lights are off.
Okay.
The
Hmm.
lights are off. Okay. Right. Obviously at night. And so I feel like, and same thing with my intention out of body was like the little I got to, I felt like it was just all really, I couldn't see anything. And
Hmm.
it reminds me of that condition that some people have. Oh, there's a spectrum recently. It's been in the news how some people have the ability to see pictures in their minds like very clearly,
Hmm.
right? And then others have a very difficult time seeing pictures in their minds. I'm one of those people who have difficulty in that. I've always had difficulty. People say, close
Interesting.
your
Yeah.
eyes and imagine, that you're on a beach. I'm like, it's a little hard for me to do that. And so I wonder if there's a connection between that and out of body, lack of the ability to do out of body. And
Mm.
the other thing, Christian, I have to say is that I feel like all my life I've been so open to spiritual things and
Uh-huh.
believing in lots of things. And I have never, I still can say this to this day, I have never had a spiritual experience. I've done spiritual practice. I've done prayer. I deeply I have deep faith actually, and this is why we're talking because I
Yeah.
really believe, perhaps as you do as well. I mean, you have even more memories than me, but I really believe it. I really believe that this is a
Yeah.
simulation, but I've never had any paranormal experience before. Like the veil is so thick in my life,
Yes.
perhaps. But anyway, I just wonder if you had anything you wanted to say
Oh
about
yeah,
these
well,
things.
there were a lot of things that were interesting there that you commented on. I mean, we all have a unique limitation set that we wear while here.
Yeah.
And so to put it in very crude, overly crude terms, the veil is thicker or thinner for different
Right.
individuals,
Yes.
depending on many things, depending on certain spiritual elements, so soul
Yeah.
elements, but also depending on the biology,
Yes.
the
Yes.
energy of all sorts of things, the family, the country, the race. I mean, you think, oh,
Yes.
we have to be
Of
human or
course.
something, and then even the human race is like every aspect of the human condition has some level of limitation,
That's right.
definition. It's just definition that goes with it. And
Yes.
so biology is a huge part of that. And
Yeah.
so just our biological state can very much change the level to which we experience veiling.
Interesting.
So it's like we all have that different. Now, like your comment about being able to picture something in your mind. I'm not in that camp that I can't picture something in my mind. I have a
Right.
very vivid imagination
That's
visually.
great. Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, and I actually, when I was writing the book, my editor was actually commenting, a lot of people experience this. You should kind of comment on that in part 4 of the book when I speak to meditation. So I thought that was very interesting, and I did briefly comment on some other focuses. If you can't focus something in your mind
That's right.
on, some image, then what else can you pick to focus on?
That's right.
So that's not my personal experience, but I understand that happens. Regarding dreams versus other experiences, I mean, I feel there's a very distinct difference.
Mm.
There's dreams, there's lucid dreams, and then
Yes.
there's out of body experiences.
Right.
And the lucid dream, I find that lucid dreaming and out of body experiences um, there can be a shift between them with some ease. Anyway, the darkness you experience may be a part of veiling, because you're starting to look in the direction of non-physical information. But if you're really focused into the form, it might arrive very dim until you're really focused into it. When you made that comment about vibrations, hearing vibrations, okay, so like the first non-physical experience I had during my awakening at the age of 30 was purely a vibration experience, but it was not subtle. It was the most physical, violent, loud, extreme, so vigorous. It sounded like someone had parked a jet engine on either side of my head. That's how loud it was. It was not a joke. It was like the most, it was so tangible. And I actually jumped out of bed out because my body was asleep when I experienced this moment. I was wide awake. My consciousness was wide awake. even though my body was asleep, and I was experiencing this vibration through my body. And when I eventually, when my body did wake up after that, I actually leapt out of bed. I was sweating. I was freaked out. I was like, what the was that? Because
Yeah.
it was so not subtle. So I'm just saying that like there are degrees to which we might tap into it. I would always encourage, don't be discouraged. Okay, because you made a comment like I haven't had a spiritual experience. No, I mean right now you're having one.
Yeah,
Like
and I want
like
to clarify.
so
Yeah, I want to clarify. I like I said, I don't believe I've ever had a paranormal experience. I mean,
Mhm,
I've hired I've had sessions with psychics.
mhm.
I've done an in between live session with oh my gosh, what's his name? The guy who wrote Your Soul's Plan. Oh my gosh,
Robert
totally.
Schwartz.
Robert Schwartz. No,
Yeah,
Robert Schwartz? Is it Robert Schwartz? Yeah,
I
it
think
probably
so.
is. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think so.
Your Soul's Plan. He speaks so eloquently to sort of in between lives and our soul planning and all that stuff. He was on recently. I heard of his old interview on Bat Gap. But I had one of the multi-hour between lives experiences, and
Yeah,
I still feel like, it was interesting, but it could have been
yeah,
made up in my mind. I feel
yeah.
like my karma or my destiny, I mean, just apparently is what I can tell, is to not ever, perhaps until now, and to not ever
Uh-huh,
have a paranormal experience, and yet to practice the faith
uh-huh.
of it all.
Well, you have such a presence of awareness that I'm not surprised that
Wow.
because okay, so just one comment, like
Yeah.
okay, it's just like I hear from people sometimes say, well, I've been meditating for 20 years and I never experienced anything. Okay, so the thing is, it's like this is just a metaphor, but imagine you're walking along the edge of a cliff up on like a plateau and it's foggy. You could be 1 inch away from the edge and you don't know it.
Right.
And so like it's like that when it comes to how
Mm,
close we are to the non-physical. We tend to think, "Oh, I'm a million miles. I've been walking on this cliff for
yeah.
20 years or 50 years or 100 years. I never experienced anything. It's just this is endless. It's no, no, no. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean you're not right next to it. And so I just think that's important to lift up because I've at least personally found that like meditation all of a sudden you'll fall off the cliff. It's not like I mean, I personally don't have, I mean, there's only been one time in my life I've been able to go out of body and meet someone on purpose. Only one time. Other than that, all the non-physical experiences have just arisen on their own. And it's like, I just walk off a cliff. Um, that was always there. Like basically we were always, the metaphor I like to use is we were always in the movie theater watching the movie. So you don't have to go anywhere. If you're in a movie theater watching a movie screen, the shift, you don't have, you're not in the movie.
Right.
Like you're not actually in it. So it's not like you have to escape the movie. And I think what
Right.
happens is when we believe so deeply in the movie, now we think I have to go somewhere. I have to
Yeah.
create some new experience.
Right.
No, it's a shift in awareness back
Yeah.
towards the person sitting in the seat. And
Yeah.
then when you do that, which is actually looking away from the sense data, away from the
Yes.
thoughts.
Yes.
And then once you do that
Interesting.
sufficiently, all of a sudden you just, oh, I'm in the seat.
Yeah.
Oh, I never was in the movie. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. This is brilliant, actually. I like both of those analogies a lot. And this is maybe a good transition point to the main thing I wanted to talk to you about
Yeah.
today, which is the reality with a capital R versus small r.
Yeah.
And well, the movie metaphor is perfect, or the video game metaphor as well. Like, this is something that
Mhm.
I have believed for a long time, and those who watch my videos have probably heard me talk about how, and it's like I sounded more crazy years ago, and like I've
Yeah.
as years have gone on, it sounded less and less crazy, which is, I truly believe we are. I mean, ever since when I was young, I played this video game called the Ultima series, which was about a hero, an avatar who came from Earth, through the portal
Mhm.
right? It's this idea of a matrix. This guy, goes from like a normal life, just like middle class guy,
Yeah.
and then goes into a portal into Britannia, this place with dragons and orcs and all that stuff. And but it wasn't just about battling yourself through the dungeon, but
It's about choices.
as a series evolved from Ultima 1, 2, 3, and then suddenly 4 introduced virtues. Or no, I think 1, 2, 3 already had virtues before introduced. Okay, now you're going to work on your virtues. I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, whoa. And they had like,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's like, oh no, you're gonna go on these quests, and every choice you make either increases your compassion or your courage, or decreases them, or decreases your honesty, or all these dialogues that you can make a
Uh-huh.
choice. This is back in the late 80s, 90s, early 90s. It was like really revolutionary to me. And I'm like, after all, I'm like, wait, isn't life like that? And the thing
Yeah.
about the game is that
Yeah.
you could never see your virtue scores. You could see your like your
Um,
health score, like if you're gonna die or not
mhm.
physically. You could see,
Yeah.
right? Like, and just like in regular life, you could
Yeah,
see if you're
sure.
gonna
Uh-huh.
die, but you can't see your virtue score. You have
Yeah.
to kind of intuit into that and just know that every choice you're making is either increasing it or decreasing it. And some choices are neutral, of course. But my God, ever since, and then in the late night, well, 1999, The Matrix, the movie,
Yeah.
I saw it like at least twice in the theater because it blew me away. I'm like, that makes so much sense. Like,
Yes.
yeah, like it was so profoundly powerful that we are so plugged in, we don't even realize we're plugged in. And
Yes.
then there are Neo figures. Well, here you are coming along and like saying, listen, you're in the
Right.
matrix. Let me show you a way that you can. So I am really, I want to allow
Yeah.
you to speak to how your experiences and remembrance speaks to this idea, the matrix idea, and like what we're here maybe to grow some virtues or something like that. With
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, th those are both really apt metaphors. I will just disclaim very quickly that these are just metaphors, of course. Our language cannot speak to this. So, we're gonna try, but I just have to highlight that because, the form focused mind is like, oh, tell me what object it's like, tell me what symbol it's like. Okay, now it's that. We transcend all of the physical universe and all of its context. We transcend linear time, discrete location, all this stuff. So it's far bigger than we can articulate successfully. But I will say that in my pre-life planning, to your first metaphor of Ultima 4, okay, so like I remember reviewing what I can only describe as like virtues. Okay, so it was like it was more like what am I? It's like the best way to describe it. It was like, this is just a metaphor, but it was like if you put graphs up on a wall and there were hundreds of like energetic points.
wow,
I could see the one that was so obviously the thing that I needed to work on. Okay, now it's not need to work on. I mean, I have to take the words tough because it's not like we don't need to do anything, and nothing is required of us. And I don't like the words work on either because that makes it sound like a task. Okay,
right.
it's neither of those things, but it
Like
was an opportunity.
it's not an imperfection or a
Right.
weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's not an imperfection, and it's not like, oh, you got to go do this, man, get down there. It's not like that. But I could see very obviously, oh man, like I mean, I knew I had a certain I'm careful to use the word qualities or virtues, but I'll just say areas of experience that I understood, that I knew, that I had evolved, like that I had been, that I understood at a being level. I really was I had engendered maybe or something. I don't know, represented. I don't know. But there was this one that was like this fear that had bested me before. And it was so deep and it was so profoundly challenging for me before. And I was like, oh man, I didn't have to look very far. It was almost like a joke. It was like, you look at this big, like, oh, I'm just making this up, but like 1,000 lines on this graph. But the one is like way down there. It's really easy to identify. Like that
right,
was how it was for me. It was like,
right,
okay, that's
yeah.
obviously the most optimal thing I could do to balance myself out would be to really process that.
Hmm.
So that is kind of like an Ultima thing.
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
makes me think of like let's say an athlete is good at multiple sports,
Hmm.
right? and then they're like, oh, I'm really good at swimming, I'm really good at, cycling, I'm really good at running, or maybe they're not good at running, and they're
Uh-huh.
like, I'm really curious to know what happened if I could increase that, because I could see some of my
Yes.
athlete buddies are really good runners, and maybe they're not as good swimmers, but whatever. Like, is it something like that? It's like
Yeah,
you don't
yeah, you
have
could
to, but
say
it's just
that.
so it's pulling at you, right? Like you want to,
Yeah, pulling at you is not a terrible way to put it. It's more
yeah.
like you have your own interest, not it's not even desire. I don't want to use the word desire either. You
Yeah.
have your own interest in balancing out, because the soul, okay, because the more that we integrate, the more we balance out, the more capacity we have for the knowing of all the joys and all the love and all the expression. Like we want to know more of it. We want to be more expanded because we choose to, not because we have to. And so when there's some area that has been a challenge for us, we come to walk on the weak leg of that area. Like that's a metaphor I've often mentioned with my wife. Like I have certain areas I may be strong, but I have a one area that's okay. It's a weak leg for me. Like, and it might not be hard for anybody else, and that's fine. Like a
Right.
personal challenge area, that's okay. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we see that in other people, like maybe close friends or family. Like,
Sure. It's
maybe we
easier
have
to see that in
it's
others.
easy to see. Yeah, maybe we have a friend who
Yeah.
really struggles with, I don't know, self-confidence or something,
Yeah.
or shame or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe that's an area that for us, like, okay, like we don't really have an issue with that. But
Right.
maybe for them, it's man, it's hard. That's okay. Like we all have that thing,
Yes.
those areas that we're dealing with. So
Yeah.
experientially, we grow through the integration of those experiences. And so this is like the matrix in that what it does is it gives us a very super consistent, persistent, dense, in your face context through which, guess what? You actually have to make choices here, like real choices.
And the choices feel like it's high stakes.
And yes,
Yeah. Because
absolutely.
if
Yeah.
it was, well, that's how we,
That's
I
the
mean,
name of the game. Yeah,
that's how
you
you
got
tell
it.
a good story, right? Like directors and
Exactly. You
writers
got
of
it. Yeah,
stories go,
exactly.
well, the character has to go through this arc, and
Exactly.
at certain points there has to feel like a high stake conflict, like they could die, or they could lose this
Yes.
relationship, or they could, something bad could happen that they would have trouble recovering from or never recover from. Like, like the higher the stake, the more exciting the story is.
Yeah. So that it definitely is like that. And
Yeah.
what comes to mind for me is just a short personal story about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I guess it was 3.5 weeks ago now. I was in a car accident. I was hit from behind and my car was
Oh wow.
totaled.
Oh my
So it was
gosh.
very violent, very sudden.
Wow.
I was not aware that it was going to happen. I was stopped when it happened. So I
Wow.
went to the ER that morning because I couldn't focus my eyes properly and I had a headache. So I'm in the ER getting checked out, and I'm kind of like, just like, oh, wow, like I just experienced a very violent thing. So the thing is, the ego is very quick to like do something with it, justify it away, tell a story about it. No, but I want to allow all that has arisen or arises. I want to actually know it because that's how we really like grow through it. So I was just hit, okay, I have swelling behind my left eye. Okay, and I have how do you respond to that now? And the reason I'm mentioning is that feels like high stakes.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
telling you what,
Wow.
you walk out of a car accident, your nervous system is kind of shocked, and I think I had a mild concussion, so I'm dazed, my brain
Mm.
is not working, physical brain is not working
Yeah.
properly. So that feels very high stakes.
Yeah.
Because it's like I feel threatened, the body feels threatened. And then the car is destroyed. So that has implications. So then
Wow.
like but that feels high stakes. So but then the question is, what do we do with that?
Mm.
Because even though it's very intense, high intensity, there's no question to me that experience, at least for me, was a high intensity experience. It's actually neutral. Actually, everything that arises, it may be less or more intensity, less or more sensation, less or more meaning, like contextual meaning, implication upon us. But whatever arises, we always have the choice how we respond to it and what choice we make now. You see, that's all it's about, because what we are is consciousness. We're not the body, we're not the car, we're not the circumstance, we're not the money.
Yeah.
We're the
Yeah.
experiencer who
Yeah.
then has to wield an intention. So I'll just say really quickly, like back to my pre-birth experience. I remember when, so I won't go into it in depth, but because I've shared it, as you said many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember communicating with a being who had been physical many times before I had ever incarnated, and feeling from him this incredible power and expansiveness and capability that I just didn't know. Like, and so like I was immediately like, I want to do that. Like I could not believe what I felt that he was capable of. And what he communicated initially was something to the effect of, well, that's what they all say, like you just don't know. Like it wasn't negative. It wasn't like making fun of me or anything like it. It was just a simple neutral comment, like, well, you just don't, you're just ignorant to how hard this is. Like it can be no joke kind of thing. And I was like, no, I want to do it. And I didn't understand experientially how rigorous the human experience can be. It can be freaking rigorous. We can have very extreme, painful experiences here, high stakes, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Then what do you do? That
Yes.
then as the human now, what do you do? It's one thing on the other side to say, oh, I'm kind.
Right.
It's another thing when someone flicks you off on the street and you've had a long day and are you kind?
Yeah.
You see?
Wow.
Yeah.
And the high stakes makes the choice deeply meaningful and transformative, right?
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
like it,
Transformative is the key. You got it.
it
Yep.
makes it valuable,
Yes.
because otherwise it's like, yeah, no big deal. Nothing's a big deal. If I choose this way or that way or whatever, yeah, sure. It's like you're right.
Exactly.
It's like if someone doesn't care what they're eating, let's say
Yeah.
they're
Hmm.
let's say your wife says, well, let's go out to a restaurant, and you're like, oh, we could do this or that. No big deal. But if you have dietary restrictions, right?
Right.
It's higher stakes. You go,
A higher
no,
stakes. That's
we
yeah.
need to use this one. It's
It
so
reminds me of
yeah,
quickly that
sure,
a
sure.
comment Tom Campbell made that stuck with me. I remember him saying something to the effect of early. Okay, so this reality system is not the first veiled physical reality experience. We've done this a lot, many times. It continues to refine and get even more rigorous potentially. But Tom Campbell talks about how early veiled experiences were very low stakes. They had no there wasn't a huge, so he compared it metaphorically to like a big chat room on the internet
Ah, interesting.
where you
Yeah.
could say anything you wanted and it didn't really matter. It didn't hurt anybody, it didn't hurt you. It
Right.
was just a bit like, so is there a lot of learning opportunity there? Not really, a
Yeah.
little bit,
Yeah.
but really, you're like, but here, you tick somebody off on the street, they might punch you in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see, like, so now the stakes are different.
Yeah. Totally. Oh my God. Um, Speaking of, yeah, Tom Campbell, right? Like I have listened to a lot of his stuff as well, and he also is very into the simulation idea.
Mhm.
And so we are entering this age of artificial intelligence, AI, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually a big fan. I mean, I've always been technophilia. I've been a
Yeah.
techno optimist. I'll put it that way. Like
Okay.
I enjoy playing with new technology. So when AI started and ChatGPT came on, and then AI image creators, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Like you can actually have conversations with the computer, never had before. And then AI image creation allowed us to type in a few words and go, please create me an image of a you know um 44-year-old man walking on the beach. And it's like, what? That looks really realistic. Now
Yeah.
it's get and it's only gotten better just quickly over the last couple of years. It's gotten
Yeah.
from like people with like six fingers, right, to
Yeah.
now hands are really realistic, and
Hmm.
faces are really realistic, and landscapes, you can't tell if it's a real life photo or not. And it made me think, well, of course, I mean, this is only going to get more realistic, and then we're going to have virtual reality headsets that combined with AI is going to make our virtual reality seem so real.
Mhm.
And maybe eventually there's probably going to be, not saying I endorse this, but there's going to be brain implants that people are going to put, which will make the experience even more real, which at some point I can imagine there probably is going to be esports is going to evolve to that state where it's like they're going to have, people with brain implants and virtual reality playing athletic games with others where they feel they feel the tackle, or they feel the fear of doing that ski jump or whatever. Like it's that real, which is what makes the game, what makes the athlete much more credible to us than just esports, where it's like, oh, it doesn't. I mean, there's some credibility there with the reputation loss or whatever, but it's like, oh my god, this athlete is actually experiencing that. And so I'm going off this. I'm like, what about what this is? It's like, is this simply ChatGPT 1000, instead of ChatGPT 4, it's ChatGPT 400. It's like like how much is this a generative AI experience? And I heard you say
Mhm.
in one of your interviews, you mentioned, oh, that, that reality before Earth, when you were in our soul body, that was much more thought responsive. You think
Mhm.
something and then it's created. And then we hear this in with near death experiencers or people who are channeling people who have been in heaven or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, it's so easy. If I want to be on that mountain, I just think it, and then now I'm on the mountain. If I want
Yeah.
to,
Hmm.
if I want to eat this, no, I'm not sure about eating food. I've heard that you can't
You
eat over
can.
there, but
Yeah. I
but
tried it. Yeah.
okay. Well, I
Yeah.
want to stop here, and I
Yeah.
want to talk about this because what in the world is happening, and is will will AI allow us to, well, essentially want to get, will AI allow us to grow spiritually? I'm really curious about that, but let's just stay with this thought responsive idea for a while. Like, are
Hmm.
we in that trajectory where, who knows, maybe within 30 years, 50 years, probably, there's going to be experiences like this that feel so real. And then after they unplug, you're like, oh, yeah, welcome back, Avatar.
Hmm.
you know? Yeah.
Well, I can at least say so above, so below. Basically, we live in a fractal multiverse. So even our physical reality is like a lower fractal of higher systems that represents the content of those higher systems in some new expressed way. So in our case, what we're doing here, the simulation is focused in part, but this is one thing that makes our universe very unique, is on the experience of separation. So here we think we're separate, like we feel separate from each other. That's very unusual. It's a very unusual experience to actually feel separate from other things and other people and other beings. And also to feel separate from the unconditional love of source. That's very, very unusual. But we thought of this, speaking generally, there were idea sets first, higher realms, there are thought forms that are created, and eventually we made it into this full-blown experience where we 99.9% believe we're separate. It's never going to be 100% because we still are what we are. Okay. We can't actually not be consciousness. And consciousness is connected. So at some level, whether shallow or deep, we all know there's something else going on here. And we all know that we're actually connected to each other at some level. It's just, we're pretty obscured. Okay. So now within each system, then we like fall asleep into the system below it, metaphorically. So you're actually on the other side right now, having the dream of Earth, so to speak. And it's like on Earth, when you go to sleep as a human and you have a dream, yeah, okay, it might seem real, but when you wake up in the morning, it's pretty obvious that now you're in the real bed. This is real. That was just a dream. When you die, it's the same thing. You wake up, I mean, not the same, it's similar. You wake up with much more awareness, much more clarity. Oh, that was just a dream. I was not the human. Oh, I see. You see? But here, we might also play with it in new ways, even just playing a video game. If you lose yourself in playing a video game, that is falling asleep into a lower level. You see, if something happens to your body, it will pull you out of that video game because the body is the higher dimension, you could say, The video game is the lower dimension, but your consciousness has lost itself down into it. Same thing with like a movie, like we just said. Okay. So what we call AI, I mean, really, my understanding is at this point, at least, AI is complex algorithms that are taking existing information and doing things with them. It's getting better. The algorithms are getting better. The coding is getting better. Now, the thing is, though, all the physical, all the form is non-fundamental. It's not a fundamentally real thing. Consciousness uses it, though. So, like physical bodies, physical avatars, we have the ability to utilize the physical avatar. I can expect, anticipate. I don't know, but I would anticipate that there will be some moment when our information systems are complex enough and have the ability to adapt and modify themselves enough that maybe consciousness will use that system. You see, we're not the body
That's
anyway.
interesting. That's
We're
really
the
interesting.
we're the consciousness utilizing so in Tom Campbell's terms, it's all information. The
Right.
body is information. Our computers are information. The information they're running is information.
Yeah.
And in higher systems, those reality systems, which by the way are even more real than this, they put this to shame. This is like black and white movie by comparison. When you engage with those systems, the thing is, how do I describe this? Okay, so this is really important. This is key. So we keep talking about simulation. Where is the simulation occurring? Right? Because we like to think of places. There's places. You're in Mexico, I'm in Pennsylvania. Like you're so many distances away. You're such a distance away from me in this physical space. And there's stars out in the sky. And then I have a shirt close to my chest. We have all those ideas about distance and location. Where is all that occurring? It's all occurring on and in consciousness itself. It doesn't, there is no distance. There is only the
Consciousness with a
illusion.
capital C.
So, yeah, when I use the word consciousness, I'm not referring to, conscious human character like the avatar is awake
Right.
at this moment.
Yeah.
I do tend to use the terms consciousness and awareness interchangeably because I don't like to distinguish. It's all the one
Yeah.
knowing
Yes.
I, the I
Yes.
that is
Yes.
knowing.
Yes.
And so a simple way to put it is, right now you may feel like you have a body. Okay. So when you feel your body, there's an aliveness in your body. And if you try to spend some time feeling the aliveness in your body, like how do you know you have a hand without feeling the wind on it or without touching your fingers? Can you feel there's like an aliveness, a knowingness, a life? Okay, that is consciousness. That is like spirit is present knowing that. And the body, it's not that that consciousness is in a body. I know it feels like that. That's backwards. It's actually that the bodily experience is a folding down, a densification, a crystallization of the consciousness into some experience. And so when you meditate, what happens is there's this, what can happen is there's this beautiful unfolding, which I don't want to stimulate the ego too much because it sounds exciting and it is amazing. There's this beautiful unfolding where all of a sudden the you that feels like your body is way bigger than a physical body. It's everywhere. Okay. And then the physical body is just this little clump of tiny pinpoint of denseness that was always within the consciousness and not the other way around. Now, the reason I'm lifting that up is because what I'm saying is all the simulated content, the form, is arising on consciousness and in consciousness by consciousness. So in Tom Campbell's metaphor set, he has an acronym TBC, the big computer. And in his model, TBC is just the portion of consciousness that is dedicated to running our simulation, the physical simulation. And it provides the data to the data stream, basically, to the consciousness of each participant. So in the matrix, we're all laying in our little pods, and TBC is flowing the data to our consciousness as we're laying in our little pods. Okay. So I'm lifting all that up because in higher systems, the you that is you is still you. Like you're still you. It's just now that knowingness, that awareness, that consciousness is much less limited, and it can be felt that the environment is within you, and you are, even though you're over here, you can be looking at a tree, a literal, I mean, it can be a tree, an actual tree with colors and everything. The tree can be seen as over there, and yet you know it's within you.
Yeah.
And it's even more real than this. And so if you want to go to the tree, that's fine. You just think you're at the tree. And the reason you're at the tree is because you are what's real. You are the consciousness. You can move to the tree. There's no big deal. So the difference with this reality, of course, is our reality, our rule set, our reality rule set is just much more firm, much more dense, much more limiting, high constraint, high
Yes.
limitation, extreme limitation. We really cranked the knob up
Yes.
on how limited we have,
Yes.
I don't want to say constrained ourselves, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what we've done is committed ourselves into an experience of profound limitation.
Yeah.
So I went down a bunch of paths there, but I'm trying to lift up that the
This,
simulation is occurring within consciousness.
right.
And
You know,
so, yeah, as above, so below. So, yeah, now here that we have these objects, we create computers to do AI. And now we're doing the same thing here in a smaller, lower,
right.
much more crude scale
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
consciousness does at the higher layers.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's a really good explanation, and which makes me wonder, well, the other side is, or the other side, the heaven, is perhaps a lower version of whatever is higher above that.
Okay.
Um,
So let me just, so, okay, all form is not fundamental. That includes higher systems that are even more rich. That doesn't mean they're not real, but the thing that is the most real is consciousness itself, spirit itself. And that thing, that let's just call that a substance for now. It's not a physical thing, it's not a substance. Let's call consciousness a substance. That substance is love and peace and joy and freedom. That is its true nature. That is synonymous with the nature of being itself. So when that nature of being wants to then express that being in a reality system with far less constraints than ours, oh my gosh, it can do so. Like all the beauties of this universe are nothing compared to the rich beauty of even one I mean, the language is so limiting. I'm just
yeah,
any one experience, any
right.
one visual experience, any one feeling experience is like billions of times more full of that love and that peace and that freedom and that joy because that is our true nature and it's
Right.
expressed in some way, in
Yeah.
some form.
Yes. It's highly concentrated versus
The
diluted, a little bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like less constrained, more constrained. And
Yes.
if you
Yes.
want to, okay, so we transcend duality itself. So I'm not trying to make this sound like a big duality spectrum either. That's like one of the, it sounds like a big paradox, like what I just said,
Right.
but it's not. We transcend duality. We are non-dual.
Yeah.
But you could say
Language
this,
makes it pretty much impossible to speak
yeah, it's pretty much impossible.
non-dual.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's a
Right.
duality language.
Yes.
So, but to use crude terms, if we can paint a crude duality spectrum here, at the
Yeah.
far end of what's most real is love and peace and joy, the love and peace and joy of consciousness itself. And so then as it takes steps into some distance, then it can express that native love and that peace and joy and freedom and all the virtues in some capacity. You could just say simply. And what makes our universe so unique is that we are way on the other side of the spectrum, where we are in an incredibly high limitation simulation. And within that incredibly high limitation simulation, that means incredibly high opportunity for growth because of the incredibly high opportunity for contrast. You see?
Yeah.
So it's not like so like I don't mean to, I'm not in any way belittle this experience is so valuable. It's like winning the lottery, being given a chance to play a human. But on the other hand, you wouldn't like commit yourself into this limitation just because it's good unto itself. Like there's not really a reason to do that, except that which is real, spirit, can grow forever, expand forever through the contrast that it created within itself.
Yes. Yes. I heard oh gosh, it was another NDEer who said, imagine you were, imagine that God couldn't be here today and sent you
Yeah.
to be a representative today of God. And it
Yeah.
was a consciousness literally has is manifesting itself through you and me today, walking around. Like
Yes.
how would that consciousness interact? You know, well, it interacts however we end up interacting, but it's like,
Hmm.
is there more purity and more more truth, true consciousness, and so I want to like bring this a little bit more practical now, right? Like
Okay.
this is amazing that, well, okay, before I end on this practical now, I've always been interested. I've always, when I used to be very religious, and one part of my
Mhm.
life I was very religious, and I was trying to um convert people to a particular religion.
Sure.
And I was like, no, you're going to go to hell if you don't
Yeah.
believe these particular
Yeah.
statements to be
I
true. Then you're
understand.
going to believe. And now I like that, now that I believe the veiling is important, as you've
It's
established.
meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's meaningful. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't try to convert or tell it. It's like, if they are really believing this is it, this is life, like you get one life, then their choices are very meaningful.
Mm.
Like
Yes.
sometimes I wonder, like, holy, like maybe I like found a cheat code, and I'm like, or cheat sheet. I'm like looking at the cheat sheet a little too much. Because the more I believed what I believed, the less it matters if I die or even have pain.
Yeah.
And also like in my work, in my business, like I used to be so pained when something didn't
Yeah.
go well in my business, like, oh no, because
Yeah.
financial distress could happen,
Yeah.
like all the stuff, my reputation, whatever. But now it's like,
Yeah.
ah, I'm just a fool. I'm just so what? It's kind of like,
You mean that in the liberated sense. I
yeah,
understand.
yeah. It's like it's okay. And I mean, I'm
Yeah.
here for the learning, I'm here for the experience, and sometimes it's intense still, obviously. But it's like, it's okay if the business fails. It's
Yeah.
okay if my
That's true.
health fails. It's okay if
That's
because
true.
there's I would have somehow maybe even chosen it to learn something from it. So I'm like wondering if maybe atheists and like people who really like, maybe they are playing like the most intense game,
Mm.
because this is it. High stakes,
Yes.
right?
So I feel that intuition is exceedingly important when it comes to how we choose to interact with others in these areas, because there are many who will not benefit from having their apple cart tipped over, and it's not helpful to them, so we shouldn't tip over the apple cart. Belief is a primary tool of the ego to protect the self from fear and to justify the self, to give the self some semblance of control. Now that I believe this, it's taken care of. I don't have to think about that anymore. It's taken care of. But when someone is ready, like put it this way, contrast is not inherently valuable onto itself. So we're allowed to wake up. Like we are allowed to pull each other out of the mud. In fact, that's what love does. Okay. So like, I've had people ask like, well, maybe you are removing contrast from others by sharing that this is what we're really doing.
Right.
That's possible. That's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're all completely free.
That's right.
So I I I'm trying, I seek to make a decision that hopefully will liberate more and help more than it will remove opportunity. You
Yeah.
see? Because when we get to know our true nature again, we are so empowered. And if we can do that while we're so veiled, like if we can do that down here, man,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you can wake up inside the Matrix,
Well,
like in the movie The Matrix, there's only a handful of people who know they're in the Matrix.
right.
Like if you can wake up in the Matrix, that's pretty interesting. That's powerful stuff. And if you can help others around you by saying, it's okay, you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to
Yes.
take it so seriously.
Yeah.
Then what happens is you actually become liberated to use the simulation in a way that is most joyful and
Right.
free. So I, well, just one example, like there are things in my life that I have felt, you know, I really do care about this certain thing. And the ego might say, "Oh no, we don't want to care because then that could be lost and you might lose it. And then let's just like care less." No, love and joy and presence and alertness means even acknowledging the way that we love the way that form is expressed in our lives, our families, our businesses, our relationships, our bodies, whatever. We can actually basically commit fully to experiencing it, even as we recognize that's not who I really am. You see, you can be liberated and still play the game with open eyes. Do your best. And if something falls apart, okay.
Yeah.
Like what matters is your quality of intention,
Yeah.
not even the physical outcome. Like every one of us is going to physically die.
Yeah.
Like one of the essays in my book is entitled "Don't Take Life So Seriously. No one makes it out alive."
Yeah.
I mean, simply like you don't need to take it that because all of us will pass
Yes.
in some duration of time for almost every human in the planet. No one's going to really remember you specifically. That's okay.
Yeah.
But you will still exist very much.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Man, this is really good. I mean, yeah, it just gives me a lot of peace as I go about experimenting with life.
Yes.
And I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that
Uh-huh.
the earlier fears of most of my life has
Mm.
subsided more and more as I have dived into this faith, this belief, this experience, and affirmed it. And it seems like it's having a positive effect on others too. And I realized, okay, I'm not going because it's funny because yeah, like as I learn more and like see the impact I have on others. Funny thing is, I'm like, I don't want to have that much impact on anybody. It's like I want them to make their choices and
Yeah,
to
exactly.
really
Yeah.
have the experience that they came for. Like I don't want to push,
No,
um,
exactly. Yeah.
right? It's
I
like
feel the same way. Yeah.
right, yeah. It's funny because like my earlier faith was like I gotta push as much as possible because it's
Yeah.
high stakes, and now
It's
it's
high
like
stakes. Got to do it. Yeah.
now it's like it's more like the Tao. It's like okay, all right, I'm like there's that term from some Taoist book that's like the Taoist leader makes it so that the people said we did it ourselves.
Oh, yes.
The leader led so well that the
Yes.
people were empowered and said
Yes.
we did this ourselves. What do you mean? Where's the leader?
So I mean, one quick comment there. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the most valuable thing we can do for each other is empower each other.
Mm,
Like, okay, put it this way. Like, we live in a world where so many people are disempowered. We believe in disempowerment really deeply. All the power's out there. It's in the money, it's in the governments, it's in the systems. Now it's in the veiling. I'm limited. I'm shameful. No, no, no. If you can hand someone back their own actual power, and actually you can't even hand it back to them. They just reclaim it themselves. All you do is
yeah.
say or do something that reminds them of what they already know. That's it. Like there's a great Eckhart Tolle quote that I put in the book. Something to the effect of a spiritual teacher has nothing new to hand you in the way of dogma, belief, activity, behavior. Their only function is to remind you of the deep peace of what you really are already.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Because when we find that, okay, the other is yourself. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when you empower the other, you are empowering yourself. We are all one family. We're all one thing. We're all drops in the one ocean.
Yeah.
Like when the other person wins, you win.
Right. Right.
Like really.
Yeah.
So if they're at a place where something that you might offer is not helpful, that's okay.
Yes.
I found like I'm so passionate about sharing this because it's so freeing. It's like, in the Christian terms, it's the real good news. It's that we have nothing to fear.
Right.
So I found that like I might just feel nudged. I try to follow intuition and share where I feel I should. sometimes I might share in a very gentle way. And I feel like if you put down that drop, there might be five people in there, metaphorically, there might be five people in the room, and one of them might turn and say, wait, what? That's interesting. That little tiny nudge might be all that was needed, you know? That might be so empowering to them and helpful. Yeah, I'm really passionate about this. I mean, I feel
Yeah,
like
this,
this is the real work actually, because if we
yeah,
can affect consciousness, if we can liberate consciousness, it's a strong word, but if we can
yeah,
remind people of the power that they already have in consciousness, that is the real playing field. The physical stuff will all manifest, it will all actualize through choices and through manifestation and all the activities that are taking place to give rise to the physical. That will all happen after consciousness shifts. So the real work is consciousness. And by the way, you don't even have to focus on the other people's consciousness. Just know yourself. You know, just find who you are, your authentic you. Be authentic. It doesn't need to be big. You don't have to affect 100 people
right.
or
Yeah,
1,000 people.
yeah,
You don't even have to affect one person. You can
right.
look at the
Yeah.
sunlight in a
Huh.
way that is open and more you. And that actually, and I know you don't may not see this, but that actually changes the vibration for the entire pond of the collective consciousness. It actually contributes to the solution. Like when you choose love and peace and joy in your own life, for real, genuinely, you are helping the whole world. You are helping everybody else, even if you can't see that. Very empowering.
Dude, this is amazing. And this is a great place for us to conclude.
Okay.
Beautiful
Sorry, I
place.
went down a tangent there. I
No,
know that's not what you asked
this is
exactly,
no, no,
but
it's perfect. It's actually perfect. I mean, it couldn't get more practical than that. Um, and so folks, I hope,
one last
yes,
comment I feel
please,
nudged to
please
make
do.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I come from an extremely intellectual background history. Like I was a very intellectual type person, and many people who are interested in this type of conversation are intellectual too. There's nothing wrong with that. I I honor and enjoy, you know, the strength of the intellect. However, just a comment that what we're describing here is actually deeper than intellect. The intellect is a tool. All it is a tool. It's a hammer that is more or less sharp. And the thing that's wielding that hammer is consciousness. So the reason I'm lifting that up is this quality of intention thing that we're talking about. It is a move back towards the real you, what is most you, and it doesn't have to make sense even on the surface to the thinking mind. If it is more of love or freedom or peace or ease or compassion or kindness, you know, then that is a move back towards where the power really is. I'm just lifting that up because we like to think about all these things, but this is a very personal, like, oh, no, but what are you actually experiencing, Mr. Intellectual?
Love
You
this.
know? Yeah.
Because there are many different levels of intellect in the world,
Yeah.
and even the least capable in mind or brain can still experience
Oh,
and
yes.
be most fulfilled in their purpose here.
Oh my gosh. And the other thing I want to say is
Yeah.
the power. So while we're talking about layers of computing power here, right? The power of the big I am, the big system, is ludicrously bigger than the brightest intellect of a personality in the universe. You don't, so basically, you already have access to all that. You don't need to be able to think. Like when after the car accident, I was like, wow, I can't think very well. That's okay. Like, if my brain can't process information here in the physical way, so be it. Because I'm just saying that we actually put it this way, we actually can find more understanding when we let go of the think understanding and
Mm,
seek that which actually knows, which is awareness itself. It already has everything in it. I know that it's veiled, super veiled. It might not be obvious. You turn towards the silence for the first, 100 hours, or it doesn't have to be 100 hours. I'm just saying it could be a
yeah.
while. You turn towards the silence, you hear nothing, you think nothing. I'm not even talking about thought. I'm talking about that which transcends the thought, but contains all the knowledge. There's a comment in my book, I forget where I made the comment, but something to the effect of that I felt strongly of pointing towards you are consciousness. So you already are connected to all the knowing and understanding of all of this. And so, but that's why, like near death experiencers, they have these experiences. They get connected to that. They know it. Then they come back and they're back down in the tiny little, crude, local PC human brain.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, I don't know. How do I even, I can't retain it. And for
Yeah.
the little parts I could retain, I can't possibly articulate it. Man, I relate to that so much.
Yes.
Like it just cannot be said. So I'm just encouraging, I just felt nudged to encourage if there's someone, leaning, like basically go investigate, be a scientist, go investigate your consciousness beneath thought consistently. Don't look for more thoughts for a minute, for 40 minutes a day or something, for 3 months. Just investigate very objectively. Don't make anything up. Go experientially explore what is my consciousness beneath all thought and all feeling. Go look. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent assignment.
I don't mean to give
And
an assignment.
no, it's great. No, I think it's very valuable. I'm going to be sure to put the link to your book, of course, below, because I think people should go and check it out if they've resonated with this conversation. I think they'll love it. And you have other interviews as well that I will put below. And thank you, man.
One real quick comment.
Yeah,
I feel like just a comment that the first of all, the book is available for free on my website. So it's not about money. I just want to make it available to people.
thank
I
you.
want to say that the book is basically that step out of the intellect to that which is real, the spiritual reality. It's like a guide back toward, and it wasn't something that I wrote. I just enabled. It was like Spirit brought me chunks over 6 years, and it's produced in a way that is meant to present a framework to an intellectual, but guide the individual back towards who we really are, to find it experientially. That experiential step is what it's about. Yeah, I just
That's
thought
beautiful,
I'd
man. Yeah,
mention that.
and I want to say I do believe in supporting good books and authors
Thank you.
on ecosystems like Amazon, because like if people aren't
Yeah,
buying books there, the books aren't going to be known and visible, and it won't
yeah,
come up in searches. So I really believe in that. And books are, I mean, for the kind of knowledge or the kind of experience that one might have on something like this, how much is
yeah.
that worth? It's like money
Right.
doesn't compare. But dude, thank you for
Yeah.
saying yes to this interview and giving us so much to really reflect on and to
I'm honored.
experience.
I sense this awakeness. You have such an awakeness and you have such a love in you. So I know that you may feel this dichotomy of, the depth of form focus versus,
Yeah.
but whatever, you are who you are.
Mm,
And you
yeah.
have so much love and presence and awakeness. Your light is bright. So I'm
Thank you,
honored to
man.
share. When I watched one of your videos earlier today, just very briefly to kind of prepare and bring myself into the correct space, I was like, oh, this is going to be really rejuvenating for me, because when I get to connect with someone of your energy and your lightness and your kindness, it's a gift. It's beautiful.
Mm.
So I just want to recognize you in that way, because I
Uh,
know you probably don't think of yourself in that way because, oh, I haven't had experience. Yes, you have. Don't worry about that.
yeah.
You are
Oh
awake.
man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Well, to be continued.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.